Director, Alyssa Kennedy.
And let's let it run. You don't have to pause every second.
You're going to pay for that.
You know how to... Oh, sorry.
So hello, high energy. It is a football game today. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yes. Are you feeling the energy?
Yes.
Are you ready to see your favorite player, James Edgar, race across that goal line into DTM territory? It's pre-game excitement time, and it's time to do a wave. You all know how to do it, right? We're going to start on this side and go to oh my signal. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Go! One more time. Ready? Go! I want you to keep that energy all the way through our meeting. It is time to kick off the first quarter. Today we have only a few of our members in their normal positions, but we will start this meeting the same way we always do, by introducing our star players. We'll start with the position of meeting buddy. We have Tyrone and Nabin. Tell us about your position.
I am Tyrone Davis. I'm one of 2 meeting buddies for today. My goal is to make sure you walk in with a smile, leave with a smile. Walk in with energy, leave with energy, and then come back again. If you need anything, have any questions, we are your meeting buddies.
And referee, I'm sorry.
My name is Naveen. I'm a meeting buddy too. I'm supporting Tyrone, and like what you just said about inviting the guests, welcoming the guests, and signing up.
All right, thank you both. We have a referee in here today to keep us all in line, Charles Sinclair.
I'm keeping track of everybody's time tonight, or afternoon. And how I'll be doing that is when the minimum time reaches, I'll be showing a green light for the people giving their speeches. And then when the in-between time, the middle time reaches, I'll give a yellow light. And when the end time reaches, I give a red light. And then they have 30 seconds to conclude their speech. Thank you, Joseph.
To catch it all on film today, we have Miss Karen Margolis. To get those snapshots we all love to see in the papers, we have straight from ESPN, Osuru. And what game would be complete without a band? Did you hear some music coming out of the speaker earlier? Thanks to DJ Curtis. How many Carolina Panthers fans do we actually have in the room?
Come on now.
Go Panthers!
So some of you will be offended by these jokes.
That's okay. Everybody can't get it right.
How do you know that the North Carolina State Police are seriously enforcing speed limits into Charlotte? For the first offense, they give you 2 Carolina Panthers tickets. If you get stopped a second time, they make you use them. And you know, I'm from Clemson. We have to have some redneck brought into the room today so you'll understand the basis of this next one. What do the Carolina Panthers and Possums have in common?
The winners.
Both play dead at home and get killed on the road. And here's my personal favorite North Carolina one. What do the Carolina Panthers and Billy Graham have in common? They can both make 70,000 people stand up and yell, Jesus Christ! I'm getting an indication that it's time to move on to the second quarter. James, are you ready for your big moment? Absolutely. Today, James will complete his high-performance leadership project with a speech that will give us the results of his project and the oh so many painful lessons of leadership. Upon completion of the speech, James will have he will fill the requirements for the Distinguished Toastmaster designation, the coveted DTM. Fewer than 1% of all Toastmasters ever achieve this score, so it is a great, great, great accomplishment. Please welcome James to present his speech, The Conquest of Fear, Vacations, and Other Obstacles.
Two patients in a psychiatric hospital have decided they're tired of being labeled crazy and they want to escape. So they plot their escape. They sneak up on the roof late at night, and across a very short gap, there are rooftops and more rooftops on into the moonlight. Their escape is in place. The first man quickly jumps across. The second one has a fear of heights and he hesitates. The first one says, "I know what I can do, I can help you. I got a flashlight here. I'll flash the beam across the gap and you can walk across it and we'll escape to freedom." The second one says, "Do you think I was born yesterday? You'll turn it off halfway across." Jokes is one way that sometimes we use to address fear. Sometimes we have to attack it. I've discovered that I've had some fears. I don't have the fear of public speaking that a lot of people have when they join Toastmasters, but I have other fears. And when I want to talk about them today, as I talk about how we went through the project of putting together our club's annual year-end banquet. There's some lessons learned there, and there's some lessons learned for myself. As far as the project itself, for those of you that don't know, the Toastmasters year runs from July 1 to June 30th, and the High Energy Club has achieved the highest recognition that clubs can receive, President's Distinguished, for 10 years in a row. We have gotten into the habit of having a year-end celebration to recognize our accomplishments, plan for the year ahead, and have a lot of fun. For my high performance leadership project, I took on the role of chairing the planning for our banquet. And there were some things that went really, really well, like the food. Can you possibly go wrong with good old soul food? And how good was our food? My wife says it was make you want to smack somebody good, which I completely agreed with. There were some things that didn't go so well. First of all, I went into this foolishly thinking that June was the most popular vacation month of the year. July is. Because we had to plan our banquet for July 19th because of our outgoing president's strenuous travel schedule. That was one of only 3 dates that he was open. And by the time we were planning, that was the only feasible one. I'll get to more on that later. As far as the registration process itself, Deidre and I worked really hard on getting that email that you all got from Event Support Services to make sure it looked right. On the back end, we forgot to put in a field so people could write in the name of their guests, so we had to collect that manually. And like I said, as for the date, there were only 9 people that responded to that first email. And that all, again, came from the timing of the planning, which I'll describe very shortly. What was the best part about the whole thing? The skit. For those of you that aren't part of our club, Melissa and Curtis and Marcia Howell put on a skit about our first club's DTM, Johnny Piercy, who is currently in Malaysia at the Toastmasters International Convention as our district governor. And they made so much fun of him, we were all in pain, we were laughing so hard. That was the best part of the evening. And at the end of the evening, everyone seemed to have really enjoyed themselves and were glad to have attended. So what about me? I learned a few things about myself. Well, first of all, there is no bigger critic on this planet of me than me. That is why I'm never afraid of any of you when you come up here to give me feedback on my speeches. I'm not afraid of Curtis today. I know he's been looking forward to this for a while. But I'm not afraid of him because he could never be as hard on me as I am. It is very difficult for me to articulate my strengths and very easy to articulate my weaknesses. But what I learned is that I have become better at selling a vision and delegating tasks. I know Deetra and Shannon and Dennis will be happy to affirm that, because I gave them plenty of things to do on this project. And that's going to serve me well as my years as the club president, because you can't do everything by yourself. You have to give some things to your team. And the fact of just being able to sell the vision, I've been growing in that. I've been watching Melissa the last few years, and I've been able to pick up on how she sells a vision and gets people to buy in. On the flip side, fear. I came into the club with a fear of leadership. Namely, getting people to join in on a team and accomplish a project. There was a time when my old mentor, Nancy Johnson, had me put together an area speech contest. I spent 3 months asking people to be judges. None of them accepted. Nancy stepped in the week of the contest to rescue me and had 8 judges lined up in 48 hours. Most of those were people I had already asked. So it's me, right? I'm a jerk. I'm a people repellent. Like I am people's off for people, like off for bugs. The memories of that disaster are still with me, and it still hampers me. We got started planning way too late because I was too scared to ask people to help. Fortunately, when I did get the nerve to ask for help, Deetra and Dennis and Shannon jumped in and worked very hard in a very short time. I want to applaud them for the work they did. And when we got together for lessons learned, I insisted on buying them lunch. Yay! So how do we spin this forward? I've got some challenges for my High Energy Toastmasters family. Take your journey to the next level. Whatever you're afraid of doing, go for it and do it. Be a chair of a contest. Not just, you could be either the club or the area. We've got several area governors that probably want some help with that. Go ahead and sign up now to lead next year's banquet planning, so your team will have more time than I gave mine. Just whatever you think you're afraid of. If you're afraid you don't have enough time, go ahead and work on it. And that way, pretty soon our room will be flooded with DTMs instead of just 5. Thank you.
Congratulations, James. We'll now have our Vice President of Education, David Elliott, to come up and present you with your certificates and other bling bling things that you do.
As you probably guessed from the room decorations and the comments that were made, James is a big Carolina Panthers fan. And this year is the Carolina Panthers' 20th anniversary. In all those years, they've had some not so good seasons, but they've had some good seasons along the way too. In fact, one year, they almost won the Super Bowl.
That's right.
But they didn't quite make it. Winning the Super Bowl is a very rare accomplishment. It also takes a lot of work and commitment from the team. Something else that's also a rare accomplishment is earning the level of DTM. As Melissa said earlier, less than 1% of Toastmasters actually achieve that level. It's also something that takes a lot of hard work and commitment, just like winning the Super Bowl. Let me just briefly review what goes into earning the DTM. First, there's the communication track. Communication track, you start with the Competent Communicator Manual. You do your first speech called the icebreaker. And then you follow that with 9 more speeches. At that point, you're considered a competent communicator. Next, there's the Advanced Communicator Bronze. That includes 2 advanced manuals with 5 speeches each. You then move on to your Advanced Communicator Silver. Again, 2 advanced manuals with 5 speeches each, plus some other tasks. And then finally, you go to your Advanced Communicator Gold. Again, 2 advanced manuals with 5 speeches each. Now I know you can do the math, add all those up, that's at least 40 speeches, plus some other presentations. That's the communication track. There's also the leadership track. It's not just about communication, it's also about leadership. You start with a Competent Leader Manual. You have 10 projects in there, and you have a lot of tasks to do in there. I won't cover all of them. But you complete those 10 projects, you then move on to the Advanced Leader Bronze, where again you have some projects, and one of them includes serving as an officer. So you gain experience in that respect. You then move on to the Advanced Leader Silver. Again, more projects, I won't go into all of them. One of them does include being an area officer, so you have to reach outside your own club. And another includes the High Performance Leadership Project that James just completed. Let me back up a second. Once you complete both the Advanced Communicator Gold and the Advanced Leader Silver, you are then at the level of Distinguished Toastmaster, which is where James is now. What do you learn along the way? There's a whole host of skills that you learn. Of course, from the speeches, you improve your communication skills, how to create speeches, how to deliver speeches. You also learn about time management. You learn organizational skills. You learn how to manage a group of people by serving as an officer or as the head of a committee. You learn about working with others, working on committees. All these skills are very relevant to our job situations and help make us better employees. As James has often said, that's a great deal for the $1.38 we spend each week for our dues. As Toastmaster's slogan states, it's where leaders are made. As you can see from that skill set that we just mentioned, it's definitely a place where each of us can improve our skills. James, you have now gone through that program, and we've all seen you grown over the years. We're just glad to be able to recognize you on this day and proud of your achievements. As part of the celebration here, we want to recognize you first with a certificate for your Advanced Leader Silver, which is what you completed by the HPO High Performance Leadership Project. And not only that, Troutman has it.
Yeah. Walmart sticks to everything.
We have a certificate also for your Distinguished Toastmaster Award. You want to set those aside for just a moment? I have something else for you. You will get a plaque from Toastmasters International, so we didn't want to give you a second. So instead, we brought you this fancy gavel set. So your Distinguished Toastmaster, James Edgar, in recognition for your efforts presented on August 21st, 2014 by the High Energy Toastmaster Club. James, I'm going to turn over to you for your acceptance speech, after which the Toastmaster will take back over.
All right. Like I said before, there's this is the best place in the world to conquer your fears, whether it be public speaking, leadership, or anything in between. And we often make other nicknames for the DTM besides Distinguished Toastmaster. The most famous one is for our member Johnny Piercy, who joined Toastmasters not because he feared speaking, but because he needed to learn how to speak in a time frame. So his DTM became "Don't Time Me." But then he was also given it by my old mentor, Nancy Johnson. She called him "Delegates Too Much." And Nancy's daughter, Brittany, called it "Doomed to Misery" because she thought we were all nuts. I think mine is "Did the Miracle" because I can't believe I actually made it through. Okay, I know Rick is chomping at the bit to roast me, so let's just get on with that.
And James, your manager, is Jean?
Yes.
Is here. Jean, would you like to come up and say a few words?
First of all, the idea that I was going to come speak before a bunch of people that like to give speeches for fun, yeah, that's what I really want to do. No, I didn't really know a whole lot about Toastmasters until I came to Charlotte from other parts of the company and I met James. And the only other thing I saw when I come along this floor and I see you guys having meetings, I heard a lot of clapping and I said, hey, at least they're having good parties. Maybe I'll be part of that. But no, but when they invited me and told me what this award was for, I looked at it and they talked about dedication, service, support, all those things describe James. I mean, working for me is not easy because I'm hardly around, as James knows. So I need people that can do things on their own, who can carry forth our mission and know how to support and help. Well, James is kind of our face for our group for new people that show up. They're the first person that they see. He makes them feel welcome. He takes care of them for me. I mean, I've had many people tell me that first day here was a very good day because James took care of me. I had a place to sit, had everything I needed. He walked me around, he introduced me to people. So I'm not surprised when you guys told me that he had this award. But I'm very proud of him. All I want to do is say congratulations again, and I think you're well deserved. So.
Thank you, sir.
Jean, I'd like to thank you on behalf of the club for being here today and for supporting James. We know that it takes a lot of time to do what we do and to put forth the effort to dedicate ourselves to self-improvement. And we would just like to present you with a certificate of appreciation for being here and supporting all of us. And every Toastmaster has a mentor to help them along the journey. Sometimes you get lucky and you connect with that person immediately. Sometimes you try again. James was lucky enough to find Nancy Johnson, and they bonded immediately and are still two peas in a pod. Nancy is regretful that she can't be here today, but she is happily employed by the state of South Carolina in the Department of Insurance. She sends her regrets, but she sends her words and a proclamation. I will read these so you guys who know Nancy, just channel your inner Nancy Johnson and hear her voice, see her here, not me. Good afternoon, Madam Toastmaster, fellow high energy members, guests, and our very special honoree, James Edgar. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to speak at the celebration today. We are celebrating our club's 5th DTM, and it is a huge accomplishment for James and this DTM generating club. I was honored to be James's mentor until I left Duke Energy in late 2012. Our mentor-mentee relationship was different from the very beginning. I could tell from the very beginning that James was bitten by the Toastmasters bug, and he was going places. Most of you know that James can tell a funny speech, but not many of you know the inspiration for those speeches that came from their many rides to Toastmasters events. Do you remember the story of the runaway GPS? He got the idea on the way to TLI. On this particular day, my GPS would not acknowledge that the road it wanted to take me on was temporarily unavailable. This caused me to drive around lost in circles for about 30 minutes. In my rearview mirror, I could see James fuming in the back seat while mentally writing this speech. I never forget how hard James laughed on our way to a Toastmasters meeting as I described to him why I am the happiest divorced woman in the Carolinas. Hint, it involves firecrackers, slaves, and a very vivid imagination. Ask James for the details. James has served as one of my heroes. I have been amazed at his discipline and perseverance and not allowing his physical limitations to limit his goals and aspirations. James, I miss our rides, talks, and projects. I am so very proud of your achievement. Keep raising the bar, and you will continue to be blessed. From your pal, Nancy Johnson. And around the room, we have a proclamation with some very formal language. Whereas James Edgar has demonstrated that he indeed has the tenacity needed to complete every DTM task required. Whereas James Edgar is an inspiration to the High Energy Toastmasters Club on how members can persevere through challenges and hurdles to achieve their own goals if they don't give up. Now therefore, I, Nancy L. Johnson, former mentor of James Edgar, and current member of High Energy Toastmasters Club number 4922, hereby proclaim Thursday, August 21st, 2014, to be James Edgar Day. Within the confines of EC2 105 and his man cave. In witness whereof, I hereunto use my imaginary powers from across the South Carolina state line on this day, August 21st, 2014. Former area governor, chauffeur, and mentor of James Edgar. There is a disclaimer. My powers are very weak outside the state of South Carolina, but I sincerely hope this proclamation gets you something sweet and an early release from work. I wish I could have been there to give you a hug, but know that I am so very proud of you for your persistence in achieving this huge goal. Congratulations, James. I miss our car rides and long talks. And next, we have a little twist on our normal table topic session. And to lead that, we have our veteran quarterback, Mr. Andrew McGuire.
For those of you who are not familiar, I know we have lots of guests in the room, Table Topics is a chance for Toastmasters to practice their impromptu speaking. 1 to 2 minutes, we ask questions, and so as you guessed, these are going to be centered around games. So we'll start off with the first one. James walks into the club, and most of us don't know James. Most of us hadn't worked with him. He gives some speeches. We start to learn a little bit about him. On his, I think his 7th or 8th speech, he gives one called My Pet Peeves. Think about it, 5 to 7 minutes on your pet peeve. Thinking about something? He talks about the use of apostrophe in emails. What would it be like to live with a man who focuses 5 to 7 minutes on the use of apostrophe in emails? This can only be answered by one person, and Jeanette. Please tell us, what's it like to live with a man that much
It's often exhilarating, but also challenging. Because you want to send an impromptu love note, and you have a misspelled word. That's caught. And also in church, we're bowing, and it's Teen Sunday. We have all these babies just helping us to worship. I hear ding.
have time for maybe one more or two if we get fast about it. So when he was doing his AC Silver, he gave a speech that said, "Why all my favorite teams stink." This was in 2011. His favorite teams, of course, the Panthers, but also the Indians for baseball and UNCC basketball. Right? Got it? Good. What does that tell you about a man whose self-proclaimed favorite teams all stink? What does that tell you about his values? And now I'll open this one up. Does anyone feel like they'd like to come up here and spend 1 to 2 minutes telling them what it means about the man's values, that all the team he likes are stink? I'll call on someone. Brad, come on up.
Says a lot about a man who can cheer for a team that always loses. Says that he gets very passionate. Passionate about where he's from or the team or the players that he cheers for. Because if you cheer and are able to watch a team that always loses, you must have a lot of passion about that team. I think about the Cubs. The lovable losers. They haven't won since 1908, and people still go to their games. That takes passion. Now the Indians, they're not in such a bad place. And UNCC, while you can understand, they've had some good runs. And well, the Panthers, well, I'm a Panthers fan too. And I still watch them. So I can associate with your level of passion, because I've also cheered for teams that haven't won. But I also cheer for teams that have won. And I would say this, the waiting on that team to win, it'll be worth it in the end. So just keep with your passion, and it says a lot.
We have time for one more. All right, many of you know that James is an admin. He has weaved that into numerous speeches. And his favorite thing to talk about is email. We've had at least 4 speeches about email. So the question is, before you send an email to James, what are some things you might want to look at before that email goes out? Dick, come on up.
Oh my goodness.
What do I say? I am on the same floor as James. I moved down from 10 to 9, so I'm on the nuclear floor. And believe it or not, I have never sent an email to James at all. So I don't know anything to relate to. Now, he's got to be positive. You're sometimes have to change the subject a little bit.
He doesn't like to reply to all. Right?
No. I'm going to tell you positively. When I need a notepad, see, I have been, I'm kind of old-fashioned, write things on paper, and I can't find a notepad. And so I have come to James, and he has helped me out. He can always depend on James. You know, I've gone and looked in drawers and where they're supposed to be, and they're not there. And I come to James, and he can always make it happen. In different ways, too. One time he pulled one right out of his drawer in his room. And another time I came, and he says, "Let me show you the secret stash over there." And I even looked on the other side of the room, building, and I couldn't find any. So I could save shoe leather and get a notepad. And thanks to James. That's dependable people. You depend on James when things are rough. Now, I'm sorry, I don't know about emails, but see, I am sort of low-tech, but
Just this one comment. James, I've really appreciated hearing your speeches. The one thing I would say is that when you give a speech, you transport us. You bring everyone out of this room, we forget we're at Duke Energy. We forget that we're at work. And you bring us to those destinations. And that is a gift that you have. So for that, thank you. Thank you for inspiring us, and also the president of the club. Thank you.
Oh, wasn't that a nice, sweet halftime show? I have a feeling the third quarter is going to be a little different because Minty is going to roast Mentor. Rick Sheffitz joined Duke Energy in 2006, and 3 years later, he found his home at High Energy. For better or worse, he has been one of James's mentees. Despite James's guidance, Rick has served this club as vice president of membership and treasurer. Rick is currently the assistant area governor for Area 24, and he's hoping to learn it all the first time. You see, James has been an assistant area governor, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Maybe Rick will get it right the first one, right? Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to experience is a roast. It is intended to honor James, but in a way that pokes a lot of fun at him. Please welcome Rick Sheffitz, James's mentee. Don't tell me, you have finally distinguished yourself.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Let's get the man of the hour back up here. You're gonna hit it coming. Sit down. James. I want to congratulate you on achieving your Distinguished Toastmaster today, because you have actually distinguished yourself in something. So enjoy this moment, because this is the best it's ever going to get. How has James distinguished himself over the years? Well, it's very simple. I can come up with a lot of things. I could talk for a half hour, but I can't. First way he distinguished himself is because he's a Southern wannabe.
Takes one to appreciate another.
As hard to believe as this may sound, he is actually originally from Ohio. You know, the squarest state in the country. So he smartly got out of Dodge and ski-daddled over here. And his words, he says dang, he says heck, howdy. He can do the y'all almost as well as Gail.
We're working on it. Y'all.
So he is a true Southerner at heart. As you know, he's also an avid professional, which I think is an oxymoron. Professional? I don't know about that. That's just a polite way of saying, secretary! How he distinguished himself, I don't know if it's at work so much, as it's his pride in being an avid professional. He's even a member of this association called the International Association of Administrative Professionals. I can't even imagine what these conferences are like. That's where they get coffee! Should we do a reply to all or not? But make no mistake, James is totally secure with who he is. I have a story to tell you. James and I were having a mentor-mentee session, and we ran into a Toastmaster on the way, who shall be nameless because she is our Toastmaster for today. And she said to us, I hope you have fun at your date. While I had nothing to say at all, James just calmly said, Don't worry, I'm secure in my manhood. How else has James distinguished himself over the years? Well, we can't forget about his sports teams that he roots for. That's already been touched on. And what do they all have in common? Of course, the Carolina Panthers, Cleveland Indians, and, the Charlotte Hornets, UNCC. Well, there's an old saying that losing builds character. So let me tell you, James has got a lot of character. I mean, after all, when have they ever won? The Cleveland Indians actually did win a World Series back in 1948, but that was so long ago. The Carolina Panthers, well, they did go to the Super Bowl, but they didn't win it because they lost to the Patriots. Ha ha.
Anyway.
And yes, he's a big fan of the Auburn Tigers. At least he got one of the Tigers right. Which makes sense. I mean, after all, they are another species of cat. And finally, as we all know, yes, he is his own worst critic. He calls himself so many names. He calls himself a jerk, calls himself a fool, calls himself a knucklehead. And I'm thinking, I mean, even if all those things are true, come on, James. Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't call yourself those names anymore, because we will gladly do it for you. So as you can see, there is so much how James has distinguished himself over the years. It is just so awesome. But in all seriousness, I've learned so much from James. James had told me one thing that was so important. You don't have to go to me for all your advice. So when it came to delegation, I'm just so glad I went to Melissa and Curtis. James, seriously, you have been a model Toastmaster. You have led so much from example, and you have taught us all how to balance Toastmasters with work and all your other life commitments. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mrs. Edgar, for your support as well. Thank you so much.
Hold on, I get a little time for rebuttal.
Time's up.
See, Rick has been looking forward to this for years, ever since I roasted him in one of my speech projects. But Rick has grown too. He's grown in many, many ways. And at the same time, he's looking younger and younger all the time. You're looking great. You don't look a day over dead. And as far as the conferences at IAAP, well, hey, they're just like any other professional conference. Once you get to the evening and you can have your adult beverages, it's all good. And I've been expecting more Auburn jokes from Melissa. We've been going back and forth ever since Auburn won the national championship in 2010, and one of the victories was over Clemson, and Clemson's beat Auburn twice since then. But that's okay. We're getting together again in 2017, so we'll be able to rack it up again. And of course, Curtis over there, wearing his Falcons jersey. Curtis had a speech a couple weeks ago, and I said I was going to evaluate him, and he said, "Take it easy on me." And I told him earlier this week, "You don't have to take it easy on me, because after Rick gets through with me, it's all good." But like I said before, it's been a great experience running this journey, and I'm not anywhere near done. And we're going to have a great time this year as our club continues on, and meet more awards, and have a great time. So, Mrs. Toastmaster.
It's the fourth quarter, y'all. And it's time for a little payback. We'll have Curtis come up and give an evaluation of James's speech from earlier. Curtis?
For you, James.
Okay.
First, let me congratulate James on coming up here, crossing the goal line, and obtaining his DTM. He crossed that goal line and didn't get a touchdown, which as a Panthers fan, he probably would have no clue what that is. But he obtained something that less than 1% of all Toastmasters ever get an opportunity to do. Didn't you just love the way he came up here initially and just moved this lectern out of the way like it was a defensive lineman? The way he opened up with his joke about the mentally challenged Panthers fan trying to escape across the flashlight beam, that nailed it. Another thing that I really liked about James, I've always liked about James' speech, is his self-deprecating humor. He brings us all in when he makes fun of himself, because we're always used to doing that anyway. It just makes us feel at ease, giving him a hard time even more. Another thing I really liked about James' speech is how he is able to come up here and just be confident in what he has to say. He didn't appear nervous, although he knows everybody in this room, for the most part, is here to see him. He still is able to come up here and wow us, grab our attention, and give a great performance, a great speech. So for that, again, I congratulate him. James, to get to DTM, has to have given a minimum of 40 speeches. Guess what? That means he has been evaluated a minimum of 40 different times. What does that mean? Is he an expert at speaking? Well, obviously not. You just saw him up here. There are two things James asked me to look at during my evaluation. Those two things are, one, his double clutches. Like me, when I get nervous, I tend to do that. It's called a double clutch, restart. James had a couple of double clutches. He has improved on that tremendously since he first came to our club, but he did do a couple of those double clutches. The other thing he asked me to be on the lookout for were moving without a purpose. Getting up here and doing what he used to do when he first came to our club is exactly as Jeanette, he's a rocker. So he would show his nervous energy by rocking through the entire speech. You didn't rock, buddy, but you did do a little pacing. You did a little one step, two step. I was about to turn the music back on. Overall, what really wowed me about James' speech is the fact that he came up here today and gave it. He knew every eye was going to be on him, but he was confident, he was secure in his manhood, for the first time ever, and he really delivered. He, again, crossed the goal line and gave us his speech, The Conquest of Fear, a speech you should give to the Panthers next week. But overall, great job, and I'm proud that I've been up here to evaluate you.
As David mentioned in my introduction, I joined High Energy Toastmasters in July 2009. James had joined just a few months earlier. In a way, we have served side by side since the time I joined. We mentored for a brand new club called Speaking by Design. When I was president in 2011-2012, James was our vice president of education. And when I served as area governor the following year, James was one of my assistants. Guess you could say we've grown up together in this club. And for those of you who have siblings, you know that growing up together is not always peaceful. Some of you have even said we fight like brother and sister. But since I don't have any, I had to Google what that means. And I realized I'm failing at the sister thing. Google says to be a good sister, I'm supposed to share and compromise. Somebody knows me. Learn not to tease my siblings and throw away my bossy boots. I don't see this happening. But during my Google search, I also found a quote from Carrie Bradshaw that I'd like to share with you. The most important thing in life is your family. There are days you love them, there are days you don't. But in the end, they're the people you come home to. Sometimes it's the family you're born into, and sometimes it's the ones you make for yourself. This is a family we've made for ourselves. James, it's my pleasure to present you with a special gift from your family. Each of us has signed this genuine Carolina Panthers football for James to have and cherish forever. I've gotten the 2-minute warning signal, so I will yield the lectern to our Vice President of Education, David Elliott, to close us out.
Was this a great meeting or what?
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask all the guests today how they thought of the meeting, but I would like to ask you, Anjanette, what did you think of the meeting today?
I think you did an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you. We had a lot of people who work behind the scenes or up front. I can't thank them all. There is one person I'd like to publicly acknowledge, though. As head of the Education Committee, Karen Margolis is on that committee for me. We discussed how to plan for James's ceremony. After that committee meeting, she came up to me and said that she would like to lead this. And she done a great job of work. In football terms, she took it to the house. Now, I see we're out of time. We do have more food. Please come and help yourself. And with that, I'll declare us adjourned.